Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about a very controversial and very well hated and divisive piece of guitar technology. This is the Washburn Wonderbar. What the hell is this thing, you might ask? Well, in the 80s, Floyd Rose was all the rage. Van Halen was using it in addition to a whole bunch of other people. Crazy dive bombs and stuff, and many a guitar were butchered trying to install one. So Washburn said, hey, why don't we make one that's surface mountable that anybody can put on any guitar? Wouldn't that be nice? So before we get into that, let's talk about the Floyd Rose. So this is not a real Floyd Rose. This is a Floyd Rozed Chinese El Cheapo, El Crapo version of a Floyd Rose, but its design is the same. So the Floyd Rose, you've got 6 saddles with blocks. The strings go into the blocks and lock. They go up to the nut and lock. And then the bridge rests on 2 posts on either side, at the bottom of the guitar. And then you have a block on the bottom where you put a spring here and here, multiple springs, and attach it to the inside of the cavity. And when you use the tremolo, you bend the whole thing forward, and then the whole thing goes backwards like this. And then it returns to the middle, and it's still in tune because all the strings are locked down. The problem is, if you try to retrofit this on a guitar that doesn't have one, you got to drill 2 holes for the 2 posts, and you got to shim or shave up on the headstock for the nut to lock it, and it was a whole ordeal. Many people ruined their guitars doing that. Washburn decided, hey, why don't we make something that's really easy to install? Let's get rid of that Chinese crap. What is this? This is made in Japan by, I think the company is Answer. Yeah. Made in Japan. And the way this one works, it's mounted directly to the body on the top. Notice there's no block, no springs. You know why? There's tension plates inside here. And when you move the bar down, you see this back piece here? The back piece here moves up and down. You load the strings in the back. The strings come out of these grooves, under this wheel, over this wheel, and then up to the headstock. And so when you move the bar down, the strings, in theory, move with no resistance because they're on wheels, and you can get crazy bends, and when you let go, whomp, it goes right back to where it was. So that's the Wonderbar. Now, to address the locking nut question, Washburn released this weird behind the nut lock thing, and you stick it behind your existing nut on your guitar and it locks. So yeah, go figure if that works super well or not. I don't really know. So today we're going to install this on my Gibson SG. Oh no, why are you installing stuff on your Gibson SG? You're gonna ruin it. No, I'm not. They also made this. This is the Shift A mount adapter. This utilizes the existing holes in your Gibson. So this is where the tailpiece would normally screw in. Boom, you screw this down with those. This is where the bridge usually screws in. Boom, you screw it down with those. Once that's in the guitar, you take your Wonderbar, you pop it on like this. You screw it in with the shallow screws that are provided. And then all of a sudden, like magic, you have a Floyd Rose style trim on your SG or your Les Paul or your Flying V or whatever you want to put it on. I think it is a fantastic invention, and I can't wait to see how it performs. Now you might ask, what happened to this thing? Why don't we see it more? Well, Floyd Rose sued them out of existence, so they were no longer able to make this. I like this design, this springless design. I like the way it looks. Sue me. I think it looks cool. And I had it on another guitar. It was on a Washburn Force 2. That's where I got this from. I actually harvested it from that guitar for this video and for that Gibson SG. I did buy the mount separately. It worked really well. Stayed in tune amazingly well. And I was able to get basically the same range of motion as a Floyd Rose. So, yeah. Let's get the Gibson SG and let's figure out how to install this thing. I'm going to try really hard not to be in the way while we do this. So, first things first, these have got to go. So let's take those out, and then let's get these out. This is what holds in the tailpiece. Hopefully I can That screwdriver is not big enough. Hold on a second. Got a bigger screwdriver that should work for this. Flathead. There we go. Just needed a little motivation. So then you take your shift A mount adapter and you stick it on like that-ish. Now, if you buy one of these plates, you're going to want to make sure you get the screws because you can't use the existing ones. I mean, I guess now you can't. Because if you use this, you're not going to be able to set your plate on there because it's going to be sticking up too much. So you want the supplied screws. The guy I bought this from included the screws because he is a saint, and I didn't check to make sure the screws were included before I bought it. Luckily they were. So, line it up, grab your screws, stick them in there. Hopefully they fit, and they do. I always get nervous with this stuff because it's a Gibson, you know. I'm worried that it's going to be like Epiphone sized or something. The screws were the wrong size, Wendy. Uh-oh. All right, so real quick, I'm at the only hardware store that matters. And so we're here because you got to be careful. So if you're doing this mod to a Gibson, the Gibsons they don't use metric. They use American measurements. They use inches, not millimeters. The screws that I got with my Wonderbar A mount adapter plate were metric, so they didn't fit. So don't force it because, you know, that's how you break stuff. So I brought the original tailpiece post and bridge screws in here, put them in a little thread checker, and found out what the measurements were. So if you're curious, the tailpiece is 5/16 24. Interestingly enough, on my Gibson, the bridge posts were metric, which is really weird, but the bridge posts were metric and the tailpiece were American with inches. So yeah, we're here at the store picking those up now. Let's go home and get them installed. Before I go, vanity shot of my truck in front of my favorite store. Okay, let's go do the guitar now. All right, so we're back at the workbench here with our correct parts. In case you were wondering, this piece that goes here is 5/16 24. This one is 3/4 in length. And this one that goes in the bridge spot right here is 5 millimeters, 0.8, and it's 10 millimeters long. So there you go. Let's go ahead and grab our shift plate and let's put it in place. So some of the paint came off underneath that post. So let's go ahead and just kind of slot these in here. Just barely turn them by hand, just so that they're in there. Okay. Turn it like that. Oh, come on. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of turn these by hand and figure out where it's gonna land here before we tighten it any further. Okay, that's, for now, it looks pretty straight. The thing is, with a Gibson or an Epiphone, the bridge is always slightly slanted like this. So I just want to make sure that it's straight. So I'm gonna visualize it here. Make sure that it's straight, and it's pretty much straight where it's at. So I'm gonna grab my screwdriver, and I'm gonna first tighten these outer ones, these Phillips ones, but I'm not gonna go too tight. That'll work. Okay, then these outer ones, I don't know what the size, well, I do know what the size is. It's a hex cap, but I don't know the hex size. So I'm just gonna use my fancy little tool here and see if I have one that fits, and I do. This is the 1/2 inch. Turn it a little bit. Turn it a little bit. There we go. Now you might notice, hey, aren't these jutting up above the plate? Yes, they are. The problem is that the one that this comes with has a flat head on it that sinks and keeps it level here. I'm hoping that that's not going to cause us an issue with our install. It still lines up. As long as the 4 screws are in, I think we'll be fine. It's just going to be a little higher than I would want it. So yeah, let's do these screws next. So I'm going to take the screw and just set it in there. I'm going to try this one first. The thing is, I want it to be tight, but I don't want it to be so tight that I'm like bending the plate, you know, that I'm bending the trim. So I'm just going around here and just tightening until I feel a little bit of resistance and then giving it just a little bit extra of a turn. There we go. So that's in there. So as you can see, you rock the bridge like this. There we go. So it's installed. That was easy to do. If I had the right parts, it would have been easier, but let me bring the camera down so you can see it a little closer. So here it is installed. It doesn't appear to move at all. So it's not going to shift back and forth. There's that gap I was telling you about. Everything fits. I mean, the screws are in. They're not in all the way because they're suspended up in the air. And it's pitched back a little bit in a weird way. But as long as the strings are the right height, we'll be fine. For comparison's sake, there's the pickup relative to the height of the saddles. Looks pretty close as it is. I should add that I intonated this by eye. I just took the old bridge, set it next to it, and then moved all of these until they looked close. I'm probably going to have to go in here and adjust the intonation after I get the strings on, but let's go ahead and string it up now. So to string it, in the back of the Wonderbar system, there's a little hole. You take your string and stick it through the hole, pull it through, and you want to put it underneath this wheel. See that? See how the wheel's moving? Like that. Pull it until it's at the end, and then put it over this wheel. I can already tell that the action's going to be stupid high on this. So I'm going to have to lower these saddles for sure. So here we go. We've got the SG. One thing right off the bat is it's a lot heavier than it used to be. And it feels kind of cumbersome, to be honest with you. There it is installed. It's all strung up. Let's see. I'm curious to see, did it suck any tone out by putting this instead of a stop bar? Oddly enough, it sounds like it sucked some of the treble out through these wheels or something. It's weird. I don't know. It doesn't sound quite as good. I don't know, guys. Let's see how the trem works. God, it does the thing, right? It does the thing. It just feels wrong, okay? Damn it. I really wanted to like this, okay? This was supposed to be my answer to have my Gibson with a trem. And I don't know how to explain it. There's several problems with this. And I was willing to ignore most of them. So we'll start at the beginning, okay? First of all, I can't get the action as low as I want it because the way that these wheels are made, no matter how low you put these, there's a limit. The wheels are tall. They're like this tall. So even if this was flat against the body, I couldn't get it as low as I wanted to. So that's one problem I was willing to ignore. Second problem is that it's heavy. It's a lot heavier. Like the SG is supposed to be like the easy guitar to play, right? It doesn't weigh very much and it's fast neck and all that stuff. I was willing to ignore that too. Those two things by themselves make the guitar harder to play. Should you be doing things to your guitar that make it harder to play? I don't know. It feels more cumbersome to play it. It's almost like you're holding it up while you play it, you know? I mean, with a Les Paul or something, like you expect that because that's the way that it's built. But if you're playing this, it's because you like the SG for what it is. This takes away some of those benefits that you get with an SG. The neck doesn't feel as fast because you feel like you're holding it up, and the guitar is heavier, so it feels like more of a burden to have it on. All of that aside, though, this Wonderbar system feels really clunky on this guitar. I had it on a Strat scale length guitar before this. It was a Washburn Force 2, and it felt pretty good on that guitar. I actually liked it. But on this one, something just feels wrong with this. I don't really know how to explain it. It just is clunky. It doesn't feel like a Floyd Rose, really. It doesn't even feel like a Strat trem. It just feels like it's wrong. When you're using it, it feels like it's going to break. It's made well. It just feels like it's not durable or reliable. Like, I'm worried that it wouldn't get through a gig without something horrible happening. I'm just not feeling it, guys. What's my recommendation on this thing? Oh, man. It works. I'll tell you this. If you're putting it on a Strat style guitar, first of all, it's not like you can go buy this just off the shelf, right? This has been discontinued for a very long time. And if you bought a guitar that had this on it, it's probably fine. It's just the fact that I'm trying to retrofit it, which is what it was designed for, was to retrofit it. Some guitars came with them from the factory. Fender scale length guitars, this works great on it. It feels natural. But on this, it just doesn't work. I don't know if it's the scale length or what. I don't know if it would be any better on a Les Paul. I really don't know. But I will tell you, this was a failure of an experiment. I'm taking this off of this guitar, and I'm just going to put it in a corner and make it think about what it's done, to be honest with you. I might put it back on the Washburn. Haven't really decided yet. But, yeah, I can't recommend it. I really can't. If you happen to find one really cheap, it's a cool, gimmicky little thing to have, but I understand why it got the hatred that it got at the time. I don't hate it. It just, I don't like this guitar as much with it on. One thing we should check before we go is the tuning. How out of tune is it after doing all that? Not great. Yeah, Well, that's the end of that. I'm very, very disappointed. I don't know if you can tell, but I worked on this all day, and I was really hoping this was going to be the answer, but it isn't. I would go so far as to say that if you find like a guitar like this, like a Gibson SG Special, they made this model during this year with this built into it, with a locking nut, I would say don't do it. I would say just get your old-fashioned and leave it at that. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Very much appreciate all of you. I'm really sorry we have to end on this negative note, but it is what it is. Sometimes things don't work out on this channel, sometimes I don't like it. Maybe you did. Maybe you think it's worth it. If it is, by all means go for it. Please join the Discord if you want to talk about guitar gear, etc. We are in there talking all day, so there's a link to that in the description. Go ahead and join it. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks again. See you next time. Keep on rocking, and this is going back to stock.